Hello, Serge here from the backyard driving range. Clipboard, got a question. This is a very unusual one. I've never had this one pop up before. And so I think it's a good one to address here. This one comes from Daryl Patnod, and it was sent in for the Serge and DJ live show that we did at DJ's house a while back. And the question is this: what things shown on the Golf Channel instructional programs, and he names a few of them, can be used by PPGS followers? I would also add to that, like, what do you hear when you're watching the PGA Tour, or LPGA, or a nationwide tour, whatever, when you're hearing these professional golf analysts start talking about the swing, or start analyzing the swing and making mentioning of it? What do we want to think about? All right. Well, I think you all that are Serge swingers and trying to do the Serge Peak Performance Golf Swing, the limited turn 3/4 backswing, we're very much in a very small minority at the moment, because we're vertical swingers, right? We're going in the catcher's mitt and up the tree swinging vertical, a limited turn, 3/4 limited turn only to the toe line, and in the finish we're going to swing the trailing arm over the toe line up and finish square to the target, as compared to the rotational ones who make the big turn back here and turn way over here and finish with their back shoulder at the target, or as they call it, the shoulder chases the target. And so if the shoulder is chasing the target, they're moving ahead of the ball, and they're swinging much flatter than us and around, and they're in the sacred burial ground. And that rotational swing, as we know, is very, very stressful on the body, especially the back, the lower back, the neck, the shoulders, and very many cases left knees start to hurt because they're locking the left knees up. So pretty much, because the entire world, since the, as I call it, the paradigm shift of the that went from vertical, happened about 92 to 94. So we're getting pretty close to, if we're talking 92, next year will be 20-year anniversary of going from more of a vertical swing which dominated golf instruction for years and years. They were vertical, but they still had you making big turns, trying to turn as far as you want, but they still always had a finishing square to the target. We made the paradigm shift to what is called the X-Factor, and now it's been reinvented or renamed the rotational golf swing. And pretty much that's been all the teaching that PGA golf professionals have received in PGA business schools for apprentices who are studying and learning to become a PGA member, and then PGA members, we have to do our education. And so basically for the last 20 years, almost probably 95 to 99% plus of all golf instruction has been the rotational golf swing and not vertical. And so pretty much anytime you listen to any of those shows on the Golf Channel, all the instructors they have are basically vertical, are not vertical swingers, they're rotational. In fact, one of the last times I was on Golf Academy Live, when we went in the room to look at some videos that we were going to put up to demonstrate our swing, and they were of DJ, when I asked the gentleman to draw a line, to draw the plane line, he started drawing a line up the shaft. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, that's a plane line." I said, "That's not my plane line." And he said, "Well, there's another plane line?" And I asked him, I said, "How long have you been doing this?" He said, like 4 or 5 years. He'd been in there drawing lines for 4 or 5 years worth. And I was the first guy, I guess, that talked about plane line being a line from the ball through the neck, resting on the shoulders. And so that's very obvious to me then, that all they've been having going through there at that time was rotational teachers. So when you're asking what is good to listen to, what should you concentrate on listening, and when you listen to it, to hear and remember and possibly go out and practice, well, if we're talking the swing, I would have to say what? The litmus test would be, does what you're hearing conform to physics and physiology? Physics would be that we know, we believe in swinging the arms, because the arms can only swing in front of the body, and it swings up and down vertical. So if they're not talking about a vertical swing, and they're not talking about a limited turn, but rather a big turn, and they want the club over here, and they want the right shoulder to target, any of all that stuff, it doesn't fit physics, because we want vertical up and down, swing our arms, because that's gravity, rock on a string, centrifugal force is the way we swing. So, and when we're doing that is if they're not finishing square to the target, then they're finishing left of the target. That means their club is being pulled across their aiming line rather than being on, square and solid. Then those things you don't want to pay attention to. If they're talking about chipping and pitching and wedge shots or whatever, and they're talking about finishing over there, We don't want to hear that, because we believe that even when we chip and pitch and we hit wedges, we're swinging and we're finishing up, and the club's going vertical both ways. And it's still in the mid-toe up and in the mid-toe up on that side, thumbs up. So when it comes to the swing, you know the parameters of what the surge swing is all about. 3/4 limited turn swing, and it goes from everything from putting to all the way up to the driver. So if you're hearing anything other than that, just X that stuff out, because the litmus test is, does it conform to physics and physiology? Now, if they're talking about some good playing tactics, strategies, or whatever, I'd say great for that. They're talking about equipment. You know, I got some things about equipment. They're talking about 45-inch drivers or longer drivers, hit it farther, bigger heads. I think you know that we might want to pass on those issues. But there are some good things. Again, playing strategies are great, but I still think that in many cases, you're not going to hear a whole lot of good stuff out there if you're a surgite and you believe in a 3/4 limited turn swing. Now, it's a different story when you go and you look at the senior tour, the Champions Tour. Now, again, some of these announcers will, I think, not quite correctly identify what they're doing in their swing, but the senior tour is predominantly made up of golfers pre-1992 who learned the game before the paradigm shift, and they are quite vertical. So if you want to at least watch and see a great deal of vertical golfers who are swinging vertical, they might be making a little bit too much turn. Some of them might be a little bit longer in the backswing than 3/4, but you're going to see that their hands are still more vertical and the club is staying closer to over their shoulders. You can see that on the Champions Tour. We're finally starting to see a lot more 3/4 swings on the LPGA, the Nationwide Tour, and the Champions, and the PGA Tour, but we're still not seeing what I would call anything close to being limited turn and truly 3/4 vertical, 12 o'clock light. All right. So the answer is, your litmus test is, does it conform to physics? Does it conform to physiology? If it doesn't conform to both of those things, then as far as I'm concerned, you can run that through the shredder and just look at the playing strategies, and when you see, if you're watching any of those shows, they're talking strategy, playing ability, things like that would be okay. But you know what the surge swing is. When they start getting off track of that, just don't let it register, because it's not going to help you. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a little bit better understanding about where we are in the world of golf right now, and where we as 3/4 limited turn vertical swingers are versus shall we say, the rest of the world. We're in a small minority, but we're making headway. We're getting the message out there. It's getting out there, and it's getting more noticed and more practiced every day. So thanks to y'all helping me out in that regard, telling your friends and bring them to the site. And we got a big job. We got to shall we say, I guess, rescue the world from rotational and get them back to vertical. The body-friendly golf swing, which is swinging the way God designed the world of physics, the world through physics to function, and our body follows those laws of physics. So I guess we got a big job in front of us to get this message out and get people playing better golf, as well as staying in better, not hurting their body, and because we are the body-friendly swing. Again, that's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon. Let's look at one recent issue concerning prevailing swing philosophy, the X factor. The X factor theory states that when you make a golf swing, you want to turn your shoulders as far as you can and restrict your hips. This creates cold tension, and that cold tension, loading a spring, gives us the power we need to hit the ball a long way. The X factor is the difference between your shoulder turn and hip turn at the top of your backswing. We do want cold tension, and we do want to load the spring. But when you restrict your hips and turn your back, where are you putting that cold tension? In your lower back. And where do most golfers hurt? The lower back. You're putting this tension in a place that can't take the stress. And you're putting it in a place that's not starting the downswing. You're loading the wrong spring. Now, look at my swing. I recommend you begin turning your hips and shoulders together on your takeaway. Naturally, the shoulders will go farther than the hips. The shoulders turn a maximum of 70 degrees. I've yet to find any golfer that can't turn that much. After that, it's just lifting your arms. But where do we build up this cold tension for the downswing? In the big muscles of my legs, in my thighs, and my hamstrings, which can handle it. Just like a baseball pitcher or a tennis player getting ready to serve. When most of you swing, there's a lot of leg motion, especially the left knee coming in and the left foot lifting during the backswing. Why do most golfers do this? So they can turn their shoulders 90 degrees or more and swing to parallel. But we've proved going to parallel and turning your shoulders 90 degrees is not the peak performance position. The knee and foot motion is not needed.
My knees move very, very little because I'm building up my cold tension in my legs. I turn my hips and shoulders together like a team against my legs. I build coil tension there because those muscles can take it, and that's the spring I use to start my downswing.
We start this downswing with what I call the lateral left bump. Here's Dr. Armstrong.
By definition, a pivot means to turn. In the golf swing, it's a bit more complex because weight shift is required to develop momentum. During the backswing, there's a shift of weight to the right leg and a turning on it. During the downswing, there's a slide back with a weight shift to the left leg and turning on it. If this is to be done with low stress and energy efficiency, then the head and the feet must remain relatively stationary, and there must be a lateral bend to the spine. The center of gravity must remain as close as possible to its normal position in front of the tailbone. This will ensure an in-plane, on-line delivery of the club shaft during the downswing.
In a good golf swing, there's actually a moment in time at the top of the backswing. When your upper body is turning right, your lower body starts shifting left, but only for a split second, the bump. That creates a snap in the body that turns the arms and club into a whip. This, by the way, is a time you better be holding on so that number one domino doesn't break. Here's another way to remember the bump. I'm going to skip a stone on the water. Watch the bump. On the same machine they used to determine the XFactor, it showed I turned my shoulders 67 degrees and my hips 53 degrees for an XFactor of 14 degrees. According to the XFactor theorists, if you couldn't get a 28 to 30 degree difference, you couldn't hit your way out of a paper bag. Yet, it showed I had a club head speed of 108 miles per hour with the driver, and that equates to about 240 to 245 yards in the air. That's not too bad for a semi-chubby teaching pro who doesn't get to play much golf anymore. How can I do that? Because I explode through the ball. Power comes from the speed and the transition from backswing to downswing.